Okay, this is probably going to look a little strange, but I'm going to actually put a printer up in just a second. Let me just fix the sound there. So essentially what I'm going to do is I bought a printer on eBay for about 90 bucks. That's an Ender 3. And we're going to probably see if it works today. If it does, that's great. If it doesn't, then don't buy off eBay. So give me a second to grab the printer and we'll go from there. Sorry about the view. It's going to be from above at the moment. So this box weighs a ton, so I got to just open it up here. It just came in yesterday, so this is going to be very interesting. So let me see if I can find a knife to cut the box open. Essentially it said there was an Ender 3 for $69 plus $29 in shipping, or actually $20 in shipping. So the first thing I want to do when I open this up is actually look to see if the main part of it works with the power supply. So looks like they just tossed it into the box in multiple pieces, which is a little unnerving. And it looks like it's in lots of pieces and bent. Awesome. So it looks like kind of like a hunk of shit right now. Pardon my French. But let's see what we got here. Looks like they tore the part of it apart because they just wanted to throw it in a box, or they were angry. So you can already see there's one issue with it. So the first issue, let me get these cords organized. It may be that parts need to be purchased for this. Also, it looks like there's parts missing, but I could be incorrect. So let's get it somewhat figured out here. Let's try bending this back. That's not going to work well. So that's the first lesson we learned. is that the motor mount needs to be purchased. So I'm probably going to have to do that on eBay. Next thing is we're missing some connections here, it looks like. And it looks like this was just shoved in here together. So far it looks like a crappy deal, but we'll see where we can take it. So I'm probably not going to mess with that right now, but it needs to be rethreaded through here. So essentially it's going to go around this, which looks like it's not in good condition. So let's see if we can figure out how to get this apart real quick. I know there's probably a couple of you in chat wondering why I haven't streamed in a while, but unfortunately I have to work during the day. So I may have to get another Allen wrench. Give me a second. See if I got the right size here. There we go. So the first thing is maybe I have to go out and hammer this down, or buy another one. So the issue is this plate is bent. So that's the first issue. That's probably why this printer was rather cheap. Or the person didn't know how to actually take it apart. So I don't know if you can see that quite well, but that is a mess. Then there's possibly two other parts that are going to be right here, unless I'm misunderstanding it. So let's flip it over and look. So it looks like this plate is missing one whole side. So we've got to figure out if that's in the box. It's going to probably have metal spacers. Looks like they threw a manual in the box. It's actually not an Ender 3 Pro. Let's look at this. So this is the extruder. So essentially it's going to be like this. And then, well, sorry, like this. And then it will extrude via here into the printer. And this will sit on the left side next to the Z axis. So this looks like it's in fairly good condition. Doesn't look like there's any damage to that. Of course, the power cord's fine. And let's see, the display looks like it's almost never been used. I don't see any damage on it, so that's good. Then we have, I believe this is the other side of the X-axis that travels on the Z, but I could be wrong. This looks like a heat bed that's never been used. This is the filament no one ever uses. These are all the tools that come with it, or most of them. So there's going to be some upgrading involved with this. I might not be able to get it all done today. Here are the actual tools. Looks like the Y-axis, or excuse me, Z-axis for the rods for setting this up. Those look brand new unless they were rewrapped with cellophane. And that looks like the top. So we're good there. Then the nuts and bolts. Not sure if they're there, but there's the power supply. We can always test that real easily with a multimeter. And here's the Z-axis for the actual printer. It looks like that's perfectly fine. These motors usually don't go bad. And of course, the surface scraper no one uses. And then the Z-axis rod. So it looks like we're going to have to purchase some parts for this. I actually do see the parts in the box for the actual Y-axis. So we're missing some pieces to that though. Let's see if we can find them in the box. So all in all, it looks like this purchase is possibly unwise. I'm going through the box to find anything else that's floating around that's of value. And there's a couple of screws and bolts in here. So that looks like a clip for the surface. That looks like, well, that might be for the actual bearings that run on the rail. But it looks like the box is missing parts. So far it doesn't look that good. So I guess the next thing I'm gonna have to do is actually go on eBay and see if I can find these parts. So let me open up eBay and bring you over to that screen. So on eBay, I bought one of these. Obviously I'm not logged in right now, but I'm gonna look for a Creality Y-axis part, and I don't know what it's called. So here's the actual surface that we're looking at. I'm not gonna obviously buy that because it's more than the printer. Here's the front end that looks to be okay, but we're looking for the back end of it. So we got to figure out what that part is called. So it is some kind of metal guide for the ender. And if you know in chat, it's perfectly fine to pipe up. But it looks like we may have found part of it right here. Let's see what this says. So let me clean up the desk so we can actually look at it, because it looks like we're only a couple of parts shy of actually being able to use this. So I'm basically just cleaning off the desk right now and not letting you watch. But so far, it's not a good deal. But we'll be able to check some of these parts out, such as the display. So I'm going to hook this up real quick. And we'll probably power it up in a second. But let me look in these bags. Nope, they didn't throw the parts in there. Just so you know, I do have tons of parts for these printers. It's just, I don't want to pull them out just yet. So we're going to need this. Not going to need this at the moment. Sorry, I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I've got to clean up a little for you. Okay, let me switch back over so you can see. So essentially I just moved some stuff around, but you can tell that we need parts for these. And there's some kind of metal spacer that we're going to have to order. This looks like the end stop connection, so we'll test these in a second on something. but I think we're missing several parts that are not in the box. Actually, they are in the box for the X-axis, so there's an X and a top here. So this, I believe, is the top because it's slightly bigger, or it might be the actual X-axis. And that'll run along the Z-axis. This is the actual top, the smaller of the two, because you can see the actual screw holes. But it does appear to be missing a lot of the actual screws. So this is probably going to cost about like $20–$30 to actually go through and fix. But still, that's half the price. But let's test some components here. So what I want to do is I want to fake out some of the stuff. So this is the Y-axis. This is the part we're looking for. So let's see if we can find that on the web page. Let me bring it up to the camera so you can see it. So it's bent. I could probably pound it out with a hammer, but I'll have to do that off camera because of the noise. But let's go over to the desktop and see if we can find that part. The closest part doesn't appear to be in here. So if you see it and I don't, let me know. I'll check the chat real quick here. Looks like you guys are a little quiet today. Let me see. We got 2 people watching, it looks like. So obviously the issue right now is trying to figure out what to do. And obviously that was me setting up Restream because I haven't done it in a while. So let's see if we can find something for the X-axis here. Or Y-axis, pardon me. So this is not going to be fun. But at least you don't have to lose your money trying to do this. It looks like we're not going to find it there. Let's try and find out what the parts are called. Parts to Ender 3 Y axis. Okay, that looks like the part right there. So let's take a quick look again. Looks like 2 holes. So that's not it. Let's see if we can see it over here. I don't see anything on the Y-axis yet for that. Let's see what we got here. New updated Ender 3 dual Y-axis. That's not what we're looking for. We don't need cables just yet. Let's see, that's the front end. So let's try clicking on the front end and seeing what happens. Where is that? Right here. Sometimes what they do is they put the other part at the back end. Well, we're not finding it, so let's go back. Let's do parts list. Okay, that looks like the Y-axis right there, but we only have 2 on ours. And that's April 2019. Try Reddit, but I'd rather not. Let's see what we got here. Let's try y-axis on Ender 3. Which axis is which on the Ender 3 Pro? That's not of use to me. Maybe somebody else. Okay, so as you can see right here, this is what's going on with the missing parts here and here. I'm assuming the bed is good. We're going to probably change the springs on it. That's easy to do. But let's see if we can find what these are called. That's how they're mounted. So we may have to disconnect. So let's go over and do that real quick. So over here, to get this off, all you have to do is this. And let's do it this way. There we go. If you don't know, it mounts through the actual plate for the heat bed. And this one's going to actually have the actual connection for the power into it. There we go. So this is where your thermistor is located, by the way, to tell temperature. So the issue is we lost these two when they sent it. This comes out like so. So we're probably going to need to redo the belt, but the belt has got another issue. It's missing the actual connection up here to mount it on both sides. So that's something we can order. So pretty much we need to figure out where to get these bearings for the y-axis. Let's see if we can figure that out. So on the desktop, let's see, bearings on Ender 3 y-axis. Let's see if there's any images of what we're looking for here. So that's not it, it's this, but we need it with the spacers. So let's see if we can find those. We actually have the actual bearings, so we're good. We just need the spacer part. So bearings, spacers. There we go. So for $19, we can buy all these parts. That might be worth it, or might not, but that's going to push the price up. Then it looks like that's the y-axis, but this is what we're looking for. So in here, looks like they took out these, so I don't know if there's an adjuster one on that side without looking at another printer, but let's take a quick look here. So you see how it's got a hex shape here and a hex shape here? That's to dial it in case it's loose. So this side is flat. So let's see if it's over in here. So it looks like these might be the actual dial-in piece right here. But let's see if we can find a parts list. Maybe we can just order the individual pieces, because we only need 2 of these. And I don't want to buy a whole set for 20 bucks. So let's see. We're getting cheaper here. That's not terribly priced, but we're still need the actual screws, which is probably going to be more painful. Let's look at what we got here. So it looks like those are going to need to be replaced eventually, but it looks like it's perfectly fine. So let's see if there's an alternate place to find these. This is called printer pulley bearings. Let's do a search on Creality. Printer bearings. So it's not looking too good for easily obtaining these, but some of these could probably be bought at McMaster's, I think. So McMaster's car, we can get some of these bolts, but we need to know what size they are. So let's go to the Ender 3 assembly manual. And let's look around and see what we've got here. Hopefully it'll give us the actual parts. So what we're looking for is the actual parts that hold the actual axes in at the bottom. So I believe those are M5s, but let's see what we got. So it's saying left and right. Left and right is probably going to be here and here. And then it's saying that we need the bolts for these. So the front, so it's these 2 right here. So let's see what we got here. It says 4 M45s. I might have these at home someplace, so I'll probably search for those. It says that we need M5 washers to put on them. That might be an issue, but let's see what we got. Then an M4 Allen key, which I've got. So maybe we can start assembling part of this and fix the rest later. So let's see what we got here. We can do here and here. Looks like those are possible. So let's see if we can test the actual motherboard first. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to connect, hopefully the right connector to it. which I don't seem to have for USB on here yet, but let me see if I've got one. Everything I've got's USB-C, so it's driving me a little bit batty. Let's see if this one works. Either I'm breaking it or we're gonna find out that it's not the right size. Looks like it's working there. So what I just did is I just connected up this to the board and the screen lit up, so we can actually see that it's running on 5 volts and it's telling temperature for, looks like the print head is telling temperature even though it's not really connected at the moment. So I've got to figure out what's going on with the wiring, but we know this right here is the actual heat bed. It's reading 23, but it's reading 0 for the set temperature. So there's 2 thermistors. I don't know where the other one is. It's probably in one of these cables. But we'll figure that out later because that's just a fun little thing to do. But let's go back over to the computer for a second. Let me see if I can find 5 of these or 4 of these. I think I have some on hand. Okay, it looks like I got 20 millimeter ones. I don't know how well that's gonna work. So let's try an experiment. Let me turn the camera back on. So that's about half the size it should be. And that's not gonna make it. So probably gonna have to order some screws because these are too short. They need to be 45 and I think these are 20 millimeter for M5s. So let's go back to McMaster's car and see what we got here. So McMaster's car, we're looking for screw bolts. Let's see, I think there's something for metric. course, it doesn't display what I'm looking for, so let's go back over here. Metric system. There we go. Now we're looking for M5. And then we're looking for, I think it's 45. So that looks like what we're looking for. There we go. So how much is that? So a package of 5 is $4.26. So let's see if we can find that someplace else, like eBay. M5 by 45. Okay. So this is looking pretty close. Okay, that's good, but it's $5.02. How much is shipping? Looks like it's free. Amazon is, or excuse me, McMaster's is probably going to be a lot more expensive. So how many come with that? Okay, so we can get twice as many for about $5.85. That sounds almost worth it. Let's go back to the manual and see what's going on here. I just had to figure out where it is. There it is. So we're gonna need washers too, so maybe we can check to see if there's an ender Ender 5 bolts. Let's see. Not the right type. Reality. Oh, and the number one thing that will probably be broken is this on the printer, but we've got a couple of number one things broken that we didn't expect. So an assortment of parts. Let's see what we got here. Nope, not the right stuff. So let's see if we can figure out what we need to do, but this is turning into a nightmare of a project, which you can tell. But essentially what's going on right now is that I got an Ender 5 on eBay for almost nothing, but it's got some issues. As you can see, it looks like they also may have other issues here. But let's check the motherboard. Basically going to bring up Pronterface and see what's going on. I want to see if the actual controller board works on it. So I'm basically opening up on my desktop right now Pronterface, and I'll show you what I'm doing. So on my desktop, I'm just checking to see what's going on. So I'm going to try and connect to it, but I don't know what it is. I'm guessing it's 23, but it's saying system error. So let's try Device Manager and see if it shows up. So essentially, you're going to go to COM ports. It's only showing COM port 1. So that tells me that there might be a connectivity issue in the actual motherboard. So let me show you what's going on here. Or I've got an issue with the actual USB cable being not the correct USB cable, but I can test that. So let me change the view so you can see. There we go. Essentially, this right here is powering the board. So based on the connection, I might not be using the right cord, but it's powering it up. So that tells me that it may at least be kicking off the power, but there's nothing showing up in here. So that could mean a damaged board, or I'm using the wrong cable and somehow being able to power it. So let's see if we can take it apart and see what's going on here. There's 4 bolts that we can pop off. I don't want to do that just yet, but I'm going to see if I have a different cable real quick, because usually I have one. Let's try this one. And let's plug it in. This one I have marked as only power, so I know it's not going to work. So there's no change on that one. So what I do is, when I know it's only a power cable, I put a little marking on one side so I know. So this cable will not be functional. So I do have a bunch of other cables, but I don't want to go through them all today. Let's see if I got another one here. This one's kind of strange. It's not marked as a power cable. And that one dinged, so I had a bad cable. So now you can see there's another port here. So now we can connect to it, which is number 8. And it's not connecting just yet. So I'm going to crank down the speed to 115/200 and try again. And now it says online. So that means that we're connected to the actual printer. Let's try doing M119 to see if the end stops show anything. So it's saying the y-axis is open, the Z is triggered, and the X is triggered. What that means is they're not connected. So it's saying that the actual y-axis, which is right over here, is still on here and it's connected. So if we click it and we go back over and do M119, which you can't see unless I change it. So it's M119. I'm going to click and it says triggered. Now I'll show you what I'm doing with my hand just so you can see. I'm holding it down with my finger. So if I release it and I go back over to printer face and I do the same thing again, it says open. So we know Y is functional. Now we got to figure out X and Z, and that's going to be good times. So this is the y-axis for the driver. This is the extruder. Also, this is the easiest part to fix. So let's see what we got here. This is for a stepper. This is for a stepper. So I know that this is probably the Z because it's marked Z. So let's see if we have that part someplace, which I think we do. Otherwise, we're ordering that or printing it. So we do have an end stop. I think it's for the Z-axis because it's marked that way. So let's pop this open. And it says Z-axis limiting switch. So we can test both axes with this. So here's the end stop. Here's the Z-axis connection. So let me show you what I just did because apparently we weren't seeing it. I found this in the plastic bag marked for Z-axis limiting switch. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to connect it over here because this is marked for the Z-axis on this little clip-on right here. It says Z. And then we'll go over to prunner face. Let me see if I can bring it up so you can see both. And I'm going to then do a send for M119. Currently, it's saying that there is an open state because we now have it connected. So let's click it with my finger, and hopefully you can see this when I send another M119. Looks like you can. It does say triggered. So I'm going to undo it. I'm going to make it so you can see the full screen over here. And send again. So we know that's functional. So that's 2 down. So we know the board's functioning there. We know the display right now is not showing much because there's not much to show. So we're going to disconnect this for now, put it back in its packaging. And we could probably test the X-axis if we do have it here, but I don't see it. So let's see what we got here. Normally it's one of these cables, but I haven't done this in forever, so let's see what we got. On this one, it does say Y. So there's one more that appears not to be available. And it's probably going to run along one of these, which I think we just found it. There it is. That's the X-axis. So let's test it on the Z. I'm just going to connect it, and I'm going to go into prunner face, but I'm going to change something so you can see better. So sorry about this. The actual cord is right here, and I found it and connected it to the X-axis. Sorry, I keep doing this to you, but I'm going to try M119. We're going to see if the X state changes from triggered to open. And it does, so we know that's working. I'm going to click it with my finger off camera, do a send, and it works. So we know we got a working part there. So let's go back over here. Just going to pop this out. Put this back in the bag. Save that for later. See if there's any other tools in here. I don't see any screws. So far the count is 4 M5s 45mm with washers that we need. Actually, these ones have built-in washers, but they're too short. So let me check on what's going on in the chat. I know you guys are going to be obviously kind of quiet today because this is really dry stuff. Okay, if you're near Micro Center, they usually have a coupon for up to $99 on a new Ender 3 and $10 filament. Yeah, Micro Center is not real close here. I think that's a coastal company, either West or East Coast. Let's see. You can print the Y-axis motor mount. I extended mine to, so he made the bed longer is what he's saying. Yeah, I could do that. Print it, you have to print it solid and probably out of ABS. So what he's talking about is this. So let me show you on the desk. If we go to Thingiverse, we can look for an ender. Oh. Waiting for it to load here. Ender 3 motor mount. If I can spell motor correct. Let's see, y-axis. So what we're looking for is something similar to this, is what he's talking about. So that's one way to address the issue, is to actually print it, which I might do later today. Looks like there's several different ways to do it. But what I'm gonna do, so I'm going to search on this, see if we can find it. Because I'm trying to understand what the costs are going to be to actually get this thing to work. So the part that we're looking for, if you guys join late, is this. And it's actually bent. So when I bought this printer off eBay, one of the things I can do is I can actually hammer this out till it's flat. But obviously in my apartment, it might irritate the people around me, so I'm going to avoid that. So let's see if we can find that part by image. And of course, it's right here. So we can find this part right here. This looks like the actual part we're looking for. That's going to be about $8 US plus possible shipping, which looks like $10. So let's do this. We'll do a search on this on here and see if we can find that part, which is not the easiest thing on. Let's see, let's do upgrade. Of course, this is not what we're looking for. By the way, you want to swap this to metal for your extruder because it will break eventually, but obviously whoever threw this printer in the box didn't care about broken parts. But I knew that going into this. So we got over here dual Z, we don't care. Technically you don't need dual Z on this printer. For those that don't know, I've been using Enders now since the beginning of COVID, and essentially we had to ramp up our production at what we were doing, and so we bought 3 or 4 of them, so I've had to print them continuously for like 2.5 years. So maintaining them, I'm kind of confident in what I'm doing. By the way, this is not worth, if you're ever going to upgrade, don't buy the Creality board. Buy the Ender, or I'm sorry, the Big Tree Tech E3. Let's see what we got here. So this is a better purchase. It's better steppers, but there's a cheaper version. I think it's like 30 something dollars. It's the version before it. The version 2, okay, it's $37 now. But this is actually better, and you might be able to even find them cheaper. But the only confusing thing is right here, the actual power connections. This is main power, and then these, I think they're fan